Do you think Trump being in office will affect the culture to the point like of something like YouTube changing his policy, their policies or something like that? Do you think that'll happen?
To an extent, but it's not like it's going to turn into like old school YouTube. It's not going to be the wild,
Yeah,
wild
for
west
sure.
per se. But I mean, like right now, I mean, just like I talked about the other day with like Stephen A. Smith, he made comments the other day. It kind of went viral where he's talking about like January 6th and how it seems to be an inside job. I mean, he never says that if Kamala wins, because
Yeah.
it's not about him realizing anything. It's about he now sees that Trump's in office, so now people are shifting a little bit. And so, yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see some significant changes, but I don't think YouTube's not going back to the like Wild West or anything like that.
I actually think
the good old days.
I was gonna say I think it's gonna be the other way around.
Do you think this is part of it right here? Did you guys see this that just dropped? Pixar will no longer include transgender storyline in their latter episode.
I did,
and confirmed that the story was removed. And it says, when it comes to animated content for younger audience, we recognize that many parents would prefer to discuss certain subjects with their children on their own terms and timeline. But that doesn't erase the fact that they spent money making that episode for this. Right. So is there somebody in their office now saying, hey man, like we don't need to do this anymore?
That's a direct result of Trump's win right there. That happens because of Trump's win.
100%. Well,
that's where people keep whining, going, "What are you talking about Trump, motherfucker?" Because it matters. That's why. Because his election mattered to the overall culture. It mattered. That's a fact. And if he doesn't win, that statement doesn't get made. If he doesn't win, Kamala's in office, and they continue to push that bullshit. And that's the facts. You can put your fucking head in the sand and pretend that that's not the reality of it, but that's the reality. And your head's in the sand, and you crying about Donald Trump gets talked about too much. You are a fucking beta. Shut the fuck up. This is important, and this is why we've continued to talk about this for the last several years. That's why that's happening. End of discussion.
Well, I was just going to say, like, that's the thing is, like, they realize the game's up. And one of the things that had been being said by multiple people that are at first, they were dismissed as conspiracy theorists. Then they were dismissed as extremists, and they were dismissed as right-wing nut jobs and stuff. They said, if you don't start changing this now, if you keep pushing this further and further, the government's going to get involved. And at this point, they had the government, up until recently, they had the government on their side. It was open. We saw it with Twitter. We saw it with Facebook. And now, as soon as they saw that the writing was on the wall, that they lost, their side lost, and all of that regulating and all of the censorship and all the bullshit they've been pulling behind the scenes was going to get caught. They were going to get caught for it and called to task for it. They completely flipped sides. Zuckerberg came out and said, yeah, we were manipulating the algorithm. Yeah, we were censoring people. Like, all of these millionaires and billionaires and tech companies are all admitting they did it, because they realize if we don't open up and talk about it now, we're going to get Twittered. We're going to get in trouble. We're going to get deregulated. The government's going to put a clamp down on everything that we're doing, because they're not just saying, hey, we're ignoring the markets and we're funding this stuff. They were literally manipulating the American people. They're manipulating the algorithms. They're manipulating technology, all of this stuff. And they're lying to people. And then they're censoring anybody that calls out their lies. They can't do that anymore. So it's like they have to, because they're scared. Stephen A. Smith, like, he has no reason to go back and say any of that stuff, except he knows, guess what? If the writing's on the wall, I got to keep my job. I got to stay relevant. So let's talk about it, you know?
Right. And so the point, so I want to be clear. Do I think Hollywood is just going to change because Trump got elected? No, not at all. Okay. It's like anything else. We're talking about very evil people that are in Hollywood. They're very disgusting people. So it's kind of like the meme of, like, you remember the Gillette ad? You know, when like the guy was like walking up and his buddy stops him from catcalling the girl. And it's like, so like in Hollywood standards and the woke mindset, they think like, if other men would speak up, men would stop raping. It's like, what? You think like some guy that's going to grape a chick's going to go, I was going to grape this chick, but you know, there's this YouTuber I watch and he told me not. Shut the fuck up. So when people are determined to do something and they're evil, you can only slow that process down. So with Hollywood, just because Trump has been elected, it doesn't mean that they've suddenly become good people. They're not like, oh, wow, well, all of this horrible ideology and ruining children and destroying children, we need to stop that now because Orange Man won the popular vote. No, it means that they're going to shift their focus a little bit. But ultimately, it's about getting those activists out of there completely or creating a parallel economy. and that's what we have 4 years to do. But go ahead, somebody had something else to say.
I was just going to say this is a very depressing how I have lost faith in humanity based off of what you just said.
True. It's true. It's the sad reality of it, but there is an opportunity here these next 4 years. There is an opportunity, certainly, but people need to realize that Hollywood is not going, they're never going to be your friend, and they're not going to change their ways suddenly because of, the election. They'll change in ways to make themselves more money. But obviously, and they're recognizing that, but that's almost like regrouping. They're like, okay, we're going to step back.
I almost want to interrupt real quick and say, check out my window. I think it's something much bigger than Hollywood. Where's my tinfoil hat? I think there's a forum of economics that is directing people on how to think and what to do and funneling money in specific areas.
100%. Absolutely, man.
And I think that's where it all is coming from. And when that gets fixed, everything else underneath gets fixed.
Yeah, it's like you don't hate wokeness enough until you realize where wokeness comes from.